Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike, and today we're going to be finishing off this little, Spider-Man-less Spider-Man Sony universe, Spider-Man villain universe, because the supposed final film of this franchise came out this weekend called Kraven the Hunter, and I managed to go see it today. So I guess, without further ado, let's get into this tier ranking. So yes, as I said, we're going to be doing a tier ranking for this franchise, and this is going to be an interesting one because none of these movies are really very good. I can have some fun with a couple of them. Others are pretty atrocious, and honestly, they're all, they're all not great, but we can have, or at least I can have, some fun with them. So kicking things off, let's go into the different tiers. We have at the top, we have spectacular, and then amazing, brave, careless, and disastrous. All of these kind of indicating where the, what letter tiers they would belong to. So spectacular is S, disastrous is D, and so on and so forth. So let's kick this off with the very first film in the franchise, and that is going to be the original Venom. Now, this is one that I've had fun with over the years. I've rewatched it a couple times. Honestly, though, this is one that doesn't get super entertaining until the second half, because the first half is Eddie Brock and Venom separated from each other, and what makes these films so fun is the dynamic between Eddie Brock and Venom when they're together as one sort of, being. And honestly, I think I'm going to stick this one because how I'm going to rank these, none of these are particularly spectacular, and none of these are particularly disastrous in my opinion because, they're all somewhat fun in their own way. So I'm going to stick this one up in brave, right down the middle, honestly, because this is one that I have a lot of fun with, like I said, and honestly, I could find myself rewatching this one every now and then. It's not a terrible movie. It's got some fun action sequences, and a decent villain, honestly, not terrible. But again, it's just one that doesn't get super fun and engaging until the second half of the film, which is kind of disappointing, but at the same time, it's still relatively fun. Moving on from that, we have the second film, Venom Let There Be Carnage. And honestly, I'm one of the few people who would say that Let There Be Carnage is actually a bit more fun than the original film. So I'm going to stick this one up in amazing. And now, like I said, this film, not amazing by any means. None of these films are amazing or spectacular, as these tiers would suggest, but they are fun enough films, and for ranking this franchise, I would say, honestly, Let There Be Carnage is my favorite of the bunch. I think it provides the most entertainment, has the best villain of the series, and honestly, I just get a blast out of seeing Eddie and Venom's dynamics and their mischief and mayhem that they cause. And honestly, I don't think there's a single film that captures the fun essence of the two, of these lead characters, and does it in such a quick pace. This is only 90 something minutes. This is the shortest film of the bunch, and I gotta say I have the most fun with it because it's one of those movies that I can just throw on just for an hour and a half, quick breezy watch. It's a fun time. I have a decent time with it. It's got its issues for sure. I think they could have definitely used Carnage a lot more for this series and for Spider-Man in general, but hey, I think he's a fun villain. I don't see the hate. Honestly, I don't get why people absolutely despise this film, but I also wouldn't really understand if someone loved this film either. So, moving on from that, we have a lot of people's favorite movie of all time. We have Morbius. Sarcasm, by the way. I'm sure no one has this as their all-time favorite movie, but this is the movie of all time. So obviously, we're putting this up in the spectacular tier. Just kidding. No, no. We're going into um I'm going to put it up in careless because there's some things about it that are kind of admirable. I mean, obviously, just the filmmaking, the fact that this is, I appreciate like any film for really existing for the people who are able to make a film. But I mean, you can only go so far in saying that this film is well made by any means. The script is pretty horrid. The action is kind of fun. Jared Leto is terrible in this film. Matt Smith, I believe is his name, terrible in this as well. I don't think it was necessarily the actors' fault that they were not good in the movie. I think it was just what they were given. And it's kind of hilarious that, the background stories of how Jared Leto got into character by just like staying in a bat cave for like a month or something like that. It's just goofy as hell. It's a movie that I can like I can kind of sit through. There's a lot of boring parts, but there's so many moments where I just like laugh my ass off just because it's such a funny meme. It's like, the meme culture has really taken this film, like ripped it apart almost, it seems like. So yeah, it's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I can laugh my ass off at it, saying it's a fun time, honestly, for the 2 hours that it's on. I can have a decent time with it, honestly. Moving on, we have the first of 3 films to come out in the year of 2024. Madam Web. And I think it's a pretty popular answer to say that this is probably the worst of the bunch. So I'm going to put it in disastrous because, obviously, it's a terrible film. But I can't lie and say that I don't have fun with it because there are so many baffling choices in this film that I think make the film absolutely hilarious to sit through. By no means is it good. No means is it well made. But honestly, I can't say that I dislike this movie just because, I mean, I can say I dislike it, but I can't say I absolutely hate this film like some do. Like I said, terrible choices in this, terrible ideas, a awful concept. But honestly, it's just so bad that I have a fun time with it. Also, gotta mention Sydney Sweeney's in this film. I can't hate it for that, So, Madam Web, it's an interesting movie to talk about for sure. That's for sure. Moving on from that, we have Venom 3 or Venom: The Last Dance. And when this one came out, I was definitely leaning a bit more negative on it. I was kind of bored by it a little bit for the most part. But honestly, thinking about it, especially with, all of the movies that aren't called Venom in this universe, there's not really a whole lot of interesting things to say about them. They're all just like movies that should have come out in the early 2000s or even before that. They're just like poorly executed films that I can laugh hysterically at because they're so poorly made. But here's Venom, all 3 movies where I can have a blast and like genuinely have a good time. All 3 of these films, I'd say, are in the semi-decent range. There's none of them that I would say are amazing films by any means. So honestly, I'm going to put Venom: The Last Dance and Brave right under the first film. I think it's probably the weakest of the 3 films, but I can still have a decent time with it. It's got, the Eddie Venom charming, bromance kind of thing going on in there. There's some fun action sequences, a fun script, honestly. not some, like some spots there isn't great dialogue, but between like Eddie and Venom, there's some really fun dialogue, like the "Hola amigos" thing. It's fun. I can have a decent time with it. Honestly, it's like it's 2 hours. If I want to just like throw on something for 2 hours, I can see myself putting this on. It's not a film that I would rewatch over something like Let There Be Carnage or the first Venom per se, but hey, it's a fun enough time. Not one that I would ironically say is the greatest thing ever made, but it's one that I can confidently say I would have a better time watching than something like Madam Web or Morbius or the next film we'll get into. By myself, just like sitting down watching a movie by myself, I can probably have a way better time watching Venom: The Last Dance. So it goes up into the brave tier for me. And the final film, the film I saw today for the first time in theaters, Kraven the Hunter. Man, this is a funny movie right here. This is like, I've heard people say this, mainly Sean Chandler. Shout out to Sean, saying this is like the Room of Marvel films, of superhero comic book movies, and honestly, I'd agree. It's a terrible film, but there's some pretty fun action sequences, some cool ideas at play, and some dialogue and some moments that I can genuinely just laugh at. There's so many terrible moments in this film, but hey, I'm gonna put it up in in careless because I can have a decent time with it. Honestly, this is I believe the only movie of this franchise that's rated R, and they go for it. There's a lot of carnage in it, as you might expect from a movie called Kraven the Hunter. But as a Kraven the Hunter movie, I mean, it's not very faithful, to say the least. Maybe to like how he got his powers and whatnot, it's a little faithful. But really, what they do with the character, it's just, I don't know. As someone who's a big fan of Kraven, I just kind of wish they kind of did something completely different from him and veered into the direction of actually having him as a Spider-Man villain and not just making his own movie, which is kind of a weird choice in my opinion. But hey, they made it. It's probably gonna flop at the box office, just like Morbius and Madam Web did. But I can have a fun time laughing at it with my rowdy friends. So there you guys go. This is the final list here. We got Venom, the Let There Be Carnage in the kind of amazing tier, I guess you can say. And then Venom and Venom: The Last Dance in the brave tier. Careless, we have Kraven the Hunter and Morbius, and disastrous, we have Madam Web. So, thank you guys, as always, for watching. Let me know your guys' ranking of these films down below in the comment section. And if you've seen Kraven the Hunter, what did you think of the film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you have a good time but think it was terrible like me? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and like the video, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a new video in the future. And I hope to see you guys next time. Peace.